Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. I am here to review the August 1994 issue of the WWF magazine. So let's get to reviewing. Okay, ad for the WWF's King of the Ring 1994 and for the Bret Hitman Hart Coliseum video, $39.95. Back in the day, those tapes used to cost a lot of money. The table of contents. WWF ice cream bars. WWF Informer, which is keeping you up with all the latest news from behind the scenes. Allegedly behind the scenes. Talk about the King of the Ring coming up. King of the Ring 1994 coming up. Talk about there was a backstage issue between 123 Kid and Tatanka. Talk about how Jim Cornette's been spending a lot of time with Jeff Jarrett, Double J Jeff Jarrett. Razor Ramon had his nose broken twice during an 11-day span in a match with Kevin Nash, then in a match with Quang. They said how the Macho Man looked for a big return by the Macho Man Randy Savage this year. So a lot of just information from the Informer. News beat hot off the press. Talking about how Ted DiBiase has bought The Undertaker, how Undertaker had went missing after Royal Rumble, and Ted DiBiase brought him back. And how he's only now he's there just for the money. He's there for Ted DiBiase's money. Talk about how Lex Luger needs some focus after not winning the World Championship at WrestleMania. He needs focus now. And he shouldn't be involved with a feud with Crush. Because he's supposed to be because after WrestleMania, he was supposed to be in a feud with Mr. Perfect. Then Mr. Perfect left, just randomly left. So then they put him in a feud with Crush. Fan forum with fans writing letters to the magazine. And all the fans just talking about how great the King of the Ring 1993 was and how they all enjoyed it and can't wait for the King of the Ring 94. Advertisements for the newsstands, for the prescriptions for the WWF magazine. Shawn Michaels' advice to the lovelorn. This is when people supposedly would write, fans would supposedly write into Shawn Michaels about love advice. Double J album review of the month. Double J reviews Above the Rim. He really didn't review it. He just said he didn't like it because of all the cussing and everything. People killing people. The Bite with Vic Venom. Talks about how he thinks the Head Shrinkers are horrible tag team champions. And he figures there needs to be some team that can step up and beat them. Talks about how he loves Jeff Jarrett. Talks about Paul Bearer and Duke the Dumpster Drosy being and the Smoking Guns all being horrible, and how he loves Luna Vachon. Rookies to Legends, Heroes of Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow. Talks about Duke the Dumpster Drosy. That Duke the Dumpster Drosy was number 500 in the. I don't know if it was in the first issue of the PWI 500, but I know the earlier ones he was number 500. And I'm thinking and then I just heard recently that Dolph Ziggler was once named 500, named number 500 in the PWI top 500. And I'm trying to think of, has there anybody been more successful after they became a top 500 wrestler, after they were the last ranked wrestler, number 500 in the magazines? And I'm thinking, I guess Duke the Dumpster was 500 and Dolph Ziggler like the only two, and Dolph was way more successful than Duke. So I don't got a lot of those magazines, but I would like to know who's the most famous top wrestler that came in at number 500. And I guess it would have to be Dolph Ziggler, but maybe Duke would be number two. Yoko rules. Now this is by commentator Vince Russo, so we getting articles from Vince Russo and Vic Venom. So and this was kind of like the first that I remember, like the first Attitude article, first WWF Attitude article, because usually when a wrestler left WWF, they didn't talk about him no more. But this is basically Yokozuna, WWF burying Hulk Hogan after he left the company. Well, after wrestler leaves, they don't mention him, but in here they just bury Hulk Hogan. I talk about how Yokozuna destroyed him. Yokozuna ended Hulkamania at King of the Ring 1993. They talk about how Hulk Hogan will eventually wrestle again, but he'll wrestle for a lower promotion that has a bunch of ex WWF talent that aren't any good, and he'll never be the same as he was in the WWF. Like this was like when I remember reading this magazine, like I can't believe they're mentioning Hulk Hogan and they're burying him at that and burying in WCW. And they say just 2 months later, Yokozuna humiliated a now 40-plus-year-old Hulk Hogan because he's 40 years old. He's too old now. So yeah, it's like the first attitude article I think in WWF magazine. Saying how Vince Russo also thinks that Yokozuna is the greatest WWF World Champion of all time. So Yoko was good, but I can't say that. Hot Rod, still rowdy after all these years. This talks about Roddy Piper coming back and his match with coming out with Jerry Lawler at King of the Ring. This was also kind of funny because this is when WWF was starting their new generation. Around King of the Ring '94, WWF was starting their new generation ads and promotion, and they was showing old. They were saying what's old, and they would show pictures of Hulk Hogan and the old WWF wrestlers. Then they would say what's new, and they would show the current WWF stars. But like going into the King of the Ring, the main event was headlined by Roddy Piper versus Jerry Lawler, and they were both Hulk Hogan's age. So it's like, how you gonna talk about new generation, old generation when your new generation pay per view is headlined by old generation guys? So, so it just talks about Roddy Piper's career, all his highlights of his career. They had video game reviews. Like I wasn't really into video games, so was not a fan of this stuff. School of Hart Knocks. Just talks about Bret Hart's career, growing up in Calgary, growing up in the dungeon. So just a young picture talk about Bret and Owen. Mostly it was about Bret, but it was also brought up Owen and his other family members. WWF merchandise catalog, world famous WWF merchandise catalog. Famous Razor Ramon shirt that people still wear to this day. I don't know with these authentic dusters. I never seen nobody wear one of these before. I don't know I don't know how they related to the WWF. Scoop Sullivan, Square Circle Superhero. Written by Vince Russo, of course. Interview with the Million Dollar Man, Ted DiBiase, at the Line of Fire, being interviewed by Vince Russo. Vince Russo was all over this magazine. Doink exposed. So pictures of Doink the Clown without his makeup, but his face is still covered. Now I don't know which Doink this was. I would think by the time Dink came along, I think Matt Bourne was already gone, but I'm not sure. And I know like one of the Matt Bournes was Steve Kern and one was the Brooklyn Brawler, but this guy doesn't look like neither of them, so I don't know who this is. Womanly War Zone, Alundra and Luna tussle for the title. Talk about how Luna was born into this business with her father and uncle Mad Dog and Maurice Vachon, and of course Medusa had to train and came through Eddie Sharkey's group and made a big deal in Japan. Became a big deal in Japan. WWF hotline, only $9.95 per call. The Cheeseburger Kid talks to us about retiring, re-entering, and Razor Ramon. During an exclusive interview with World Wrestling Federation magazine, former heavyweight boxing champion George Foreman tells us his long storied history in the sports of pro wrestling. So George just talks about his love of pro wrestling, how he became a fan of pro wrestling. And he likes Randy Savage and Razor Ramon. Between Heaven and Hell, is Jim Cornette leading the heavenly bodies astray? And he just talks about how Jim is putting all his efforts in Yokozuna and Crush as a new tag team, and how he's really not doing anything with the heavenly bodies. He's wasting their talents. Private Eye with Adam Bomb as returns to Ground Zero. WWF Lowdown. It talks about the Golden Boy Arnold Skolin's induction into the WWF Hall of Fame. Talks about the WWF magazine coming out with Undertaker's greatest matches, all his best matches. Talking about how Roddy Piper, when he wrestles Jerry Lawler, he's going to donate part of the proceeds to the Sick Children Foundation of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. It's a hospital. And it's talking about Shawn Michaels and Tatanka playing video games with fans. Pin 'em down, where the fans ask wrestlers questions and the wrestlers answer them. Puzzle Corner, hunting for the hitman. 3 ways, 3 days. Advertisements for WWF Mania, WWF All American Wrestling, and Monday Night Raw. Up close, Harvey Wippleman versus Howard Finkel. And an advertisement for SummerSlam, Undertaker vs. Undertaker. And this has been a review of the August 1994 issue of WWF Magazine. Thanks for watching.